I'm not sure if I've ever made a video about my buddy Danny. I'm sure I've mentioned him in the past, but my memory isn't what it used to be. So I've been thinking about him a lot past couple of days. His birthday's coming up, June 6th, I think. He was the best friend I ever had. One of the best men I ever knew. He made my life a lot better. And this video is about Danny, but just a real quick background on me. I'm awkward. I've never had many friends. I've got weird tastes, grew up moving around a lot. My dad was in the military, so I never really, learned how to do the make a friend thing. So that's me. Yeah. And so I was driving a truck, and my wife at the time was pregnant with our third child, my second son, River. And so I decided that I wanted to get a local job. I felt like I was missing out too much on the kids. Ironic nowadays. And so I went and applied for the county. And I got the job at the county. Now, on the day that I went in to fill out the paperwork and everything, that's when I first met Danny. He got hired the same day. Or maybe it was a day later, but we both went in to fill our paperwork. I know I used to bust his balls all the time, saying how I was hired before him, so therefore I had seniority. He really didn't play that shit, but it was kind of funny. And I was driving, I think it was like a 38-foot or 48-foot calcium truck, tanker. That was my background, tankers. And if you're going to back up on a lot of these country roads and working for the county, you need a spotter. And so Danny was assigned as my spotter. And I guess that's where we really first started bonding. And man, he was a funny guy. He could do impressions. He could do impressions of our bosses that were spot on. I mean, I would just nearly piss myself laughing. He was intelligent. He had gotten into some, legal trouble when he was younger. And so therefore, he was kind of building himself back up at this, working at the county. It wasn't like a permanent gig for him, I don't think. Pretty sure it wasn't. Anyhow, he'd go on to do much better things. But this was around 2010, I want to say. I met him. And my boss, he was a racist. Oh, geez. And he had wanted to give that job that I got to somebody else, a black fellow. But they ended up giving it to me instead, and so he never liked me. And pretty soon I got more or less transferred. They couldn't demote me, but they transferred me to the asphalt crew. Now also you weren't spraying calcium every day, especially in the winter. So they had to do something with me. And my boss, man, he was just itching for me to quit. He tried to make life difficult for me. But, and if it hadn't been for Danny, maybe I would have quit. But he and I just sort of bonded. Neither one of us cared much for bullies or obnoxious, loud people. You know, you ever hang around somebody and you just feel like a better person, you know, for their presence, their aura. You know, nothing has to be said. And Danny and I, we could spend, you know, hours, you know, in silence, you know, or just making small talk or whatever. Although we had a lot of deep discussions. Oh, Danny was just that kind of guy. You know, he made work on the Asphalt Crew bearable. I won't say fun. His work on the Asphalt Crew in Mobile, Alabama in the summer. I saw men a lot younger than me in better shape pass out. I nearly passed out a couple times. I'm not going to deny it. Man, that is some shit. I remember one time, I hated the song Midnight Train to Georgia. Okay, and Danny loved it because he had terrible taste in music, as I'll elaborate on. So, we're working one day. He's laying out asphalt, and I'm, you know, helping or operating equipment or whatever. And we get talking about that song. I said, I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you what. This is back when he smoked before he hit a vape. I said, I'll buy you a pack of Newports if you can dance the entire time to that song. Okay? And if you can't mention it again. Yeah, you can't bring up the fucking song again. Midnight Train to Georgia, piece of shit song. So, yeah, I ended up buying him a pack of Newports. Yeah. But man, he was worn the fuck out. I bet that song seemed eternal to him. Oh, it was worth it. It was totally worth it. Yeah, and he became a vapor, you know. I guess that was unnecessary. I remember one time, this wasn't at work. I think this was way after we both left the county. But Danny found an old woman wandering. I think she was in her nightshirt or something. And, you know, all these people were passing her by, and he actually stopped, got out, parked his car, called the cops, stayed with her. Yeah. I mean, she just didn't appear out of nowhere. She'd been walking that sidewalk, you know, for some time. Other people saw her. And, you know, that's just a universal truth, man. Most people are not good people. And I'm not saying they're bad people. Most people are apathetic. That's the truth. If it doesn't impact them directly, you know, they don't give it any thought hardly, and indirectly just a little thought. So when I got divorced, I don't want to go into too much detail, but my ex-wife enjoyed trying to ruin my friendships. She sent a lot of messages that I later saw to my friends and stuff. So pretty much everybody left me. Yeah, but Danny didn't. Yeah, Danny stuck by me. Didn't have to. I was pretty whacked out at that point, man. I was not at my best. I can understand why it was easy for people to believe the lies that were told about me. Danny never once turned his back on me. You know, even when I was just a space cadet with long hair. Danny was really the only one who stood by me. Now, I'm not going to say he's the only one who didn't believe the lies, because, you know, somebody showed me the messages. But he was the only one, you know, who made sure I was doing okay. Danny would not let me fall. He'd let me droop on my own accord, but not fall. Because that's the type of man he was. He had loyalty. I remember I said I'd talk more about his music. Okay. Danny, he had terrible taste in music, pretty much. Yeah. He always said my stuff was too gloomy, but he'd listen to like Dancing Queen was one of his favorite songs by ABBA. Dancing Queen. It's a catchy tune, but I don't know, man. And it was just more like that. Oh, geez. I remember one of our biggest arguments, debates, we never argued, but debates, was about Nick Cage versus Robert De Niro. Yeah. Because one day we were naming, great actors. I think this was at work. It was one of the things that we used to bullshit about past time was movies and stuff. And so I said Robert De Niro is one of the greatest actors. Okay. This is before De Niro got into all the political shit, and I really don't care about his political beliefs because the man is a great actor. So no Robert De Niro hating. Best devil ever in Angel Heart. Be right back. So anyhow, and Raging Bull too, of course. De Niro is just an incredible actor. But Danny said Nick Cage was a better actor than Robert De Niro. Nick Cage. Now, Nicolas Cage is very entertaining, and he can act. I mean, Leaving Las Vegas, it's a hell of a film, and he deserved the Oscar he got for it. But to me, a true test of an actor is great or not is if he can play a villain. Okay. Nick Cage can't play a villain. I love Keanu Reeves. Would he be believable as a villain? And so on and so on. Okay. But anyhow, I just, finally, after me, bringing up film after film by Nick Cage, purposefully scraping the bottom of the barrel, he finally had to admit that, okay, maybe Robert De Niro is a better actor. Danny would never admit he was wrong. Not in so many words. You had to understand his body language, I guess, or just know him. He would drop a subject real quick if you called him on it. I think the greatest debate we ever had that I came in, first place, was there's this Denzel Washington apocalypse film called The Book of Eli. And we're both big Denzel Washington fans. That man can act. Training Day, he plays a great villain. Okay, Denzel Washington, one of the great thespians of our ages. But anyhow, so we're talking about Book of Eli, and Danny gets it in his brain somehow. Okay, that Eli, the character, and spoilers here. Fast forward if you don't want to know about Book of Eli, which is a pretty good film actually. But Danny got in his head that Eli could see the entire film. And the big reveal at the end of the film is that Eli's been blind the entire time. And so therefore the viewer's led to believe that his hand truly was guided by God. And I tried to explain, because I've written some screenplays. I tried to explain to Danny And hey, man, the big reveal was that he was blind. If he could see the entire time, the film loses like half its gravitas. You know what I'm saying? He just insisted upon heaven that I was wrong. He pointed different scenes in the film where obviously, according to Danny, Eli had to be able to see. He just didn't get it. So I don't know, man. This debate, probably as close as we ever got to an argument. Well, maybe once or twice. But this debate, just went on and on. So finally, I had an idea. I looked up the guy who wrote the screenplay. I found him on Twitter, now X, but it was Twitter then. And I wrote him. I said, hey, could you please settle a debate between a friend of mine? And I didn't couch it towards his argument or mine. I said, could Eli see the entire film? And the guy wrote back and in so many words said, no, he was blind. I mean, he said he was blind, but I think he couched it in some other, anyhow. So I showed Danny. He insisted at first that the screenwriter got it wrong. I mean, come on, dude. Finally, he very begrudgingly may have admitted that I was right. But that was my favorite burn of Danny. Another thing I used to do, and I still got it. We'd each sign $1. Okay, flip a coin, and whoever lost had to take the $1. Yeah. Then it was his job to try and give it to the other guy without the other guy knowing. And so, you do things like if I was handing Danny change, I might try to slip the $1 in, or I might, try and sneak it into his pocket when he was playing dominoes or something, shit like that. And he left me holding the $1. Son of a bitch died before I give it back to him. So I still got that in my wallet with his initials. But I didn't always get him. Sometimes he got me. I remember the maddest I ever got at Danny. We were at work, and it was raining real bad, like thunder and lightning, and we're playing spades in some shed. And it's me, a partner, and we're playing against Danny and some other guy. I can't remember. And I get the perfect hand. I mean, it's just nothing but spades, man. Yeah. What isn't spades is face cards. I don't think I had anything below a 10. And we're getting real close to the point cap. I just know this is going to put us over. And so I bet whatever the maximum is. And really, I'm just looking forward to playing this hand, because it's probably the best hand in spades I have ever gotten or ever will get again. At this point, it's not even about the winning. It's just the experience. And Danny, he could read people really well. He saw something in my eye, and he just quit. He folded. He quit. Didn't let me play the hand. Oh, I got pissed off. I was like, you son of a bitch, man. Yeah. And he thought it was funny. And I guess it was kind of funny at my expense. Oh, I was so mad. I stormed off. I actually stormed off. I slammed the door. But that was pretty funny. I can still hear his voice. You eventually forget what people sound like when they die. I can still hear him, though. Now, whenever I'd call him or he'd call me, the first thing he'd say was, Mikey! He was a lot better than that. But he called me Mikey. Only people in my life who ever called me Mikey were Danny and his wife. he had a lot of pride in his work. That's something you don't see a lot these days. Whatever he was doing, he wanted to do it well. He didn't half-ass. Man, he could cook some good ribs. Oh, Jesus. I remember his wife, his widow, gave me the last bit he'd cooked, part of the last bit he'd cooked. Best ribs I ever had. I'm gonna check something. Well, hopefully this comes out okay. I thought I could add on to the video I was making about Danny, but apparently I messed things up. I'm of that generation that didn't grow up with intelligent phones. So, anyhow, I also wanted to mention something that Danny and I bonded over. Was dark humor. It became a running gag to, try and see who could tell the darker joke. And we both told jokes that we'll take to our graves. As good as a person as Danny is, I think that's really a sign that dark humor isn't indicative of malevolent character. Maybe in my case it is, but not in Danny's. Politically, he was leftist, not on a lot of social issues. I remember one debate we had, and I was arguing for African Americans to get reparations, and he was arguing against it. And I asked him why, and he said, to summarize his argument, he didn't use these exact words, but he said, without financial literacy, it would just cause more problems. And I thought about that for a long time. And I think he was right. He wasn't no Uncle Ruckus motherfucker, but pardon the pun, he'd call a spade a spade. He saw things as they were, whereas I think I've always seen things I want them to be. He was a realist. How in the hell he kept that good heart, still seeing the world for what it is, I don't know. He had strong character. I remember one time we were at a Chinese restaurant. Neither one of us could stand God, who's that fuck? Tucker Carlson or whatever. The Putin lover, Russia lover. But we went to a Chinese restaurant that was playing on the TV, and Danny didn't make a stink, but he definitely asked for the remote control, and he changed the channel. Because neither one of us wanted to hear that shit, while we're trying to eat. What else can I say about Danny? I mean, I could talk, all day, but I'd be repeating the same things. He was a great man. He was a great human being. The thing he worried the most about was his kids. Loved all his kids. think with his children, he was often conflicted between showing them the emotion that he felt and trying to serve as a stern but benevolent authority figure. And his kids turned out great. I think that's what he worried about the most. Loved his wife. Loved his wife very much. They were lucky to have each other. Man, I wish I knew what else to say. Because I don't feel like I'm giving Danny his due in the short amount of time I've talked. I don't want to make it about me. I miss you, Danny. Every goddamn day I miss you. When you died, part of me died too. And it's never coming back, I fear. If there is life after death, man, I know I'll see you again. Watch some of those cheesy movies you like. He loved Christmas movies, Hallmark Christmas movies. The man had cheesy taste at times. Jesus Christ. He loved the fantasy stuff, I think, the most. Like, not necessarily fantasy, but, medieval. He liked the fantasy, but also like shows like Vikings. He was always calling his kids Viking names. I can't remember them now. Uhtred or something. Yeah, when he was trying to summon them, to go get us a couple of beers or something. He was a good dad. He was a good dad. Loved his kids. Did everything for his kids. I know he sacrificed a lot in ways that, don't need to be elaborated on. Yeah, brother, I know I'll see you again. Never saw the man cry. Tough as fucking nails. Scared of dogs. Okay. I remember one time when we were working, a dog rushed up on us, and I jumped in front of Danny, even as all the other guys were backing away. So I've never been. Well, I was attacked by dogs in Germany when I was a little kid, and ever since I've never been scared of dogs. Okay? I'm not some big bad brave ass. Big brave badass. I just have this fucked up psychological thing that dogs, while I respect them, do not scare me. But Danny wasn't scared of much else. I'll tell you that much. I saw him stand up to men twice his size. And I tell you, he wasn't selling wolf tickets. And Danny Levert Roberts Jr., he'd give you an ass whooping. Don't ask me how I know. The man had hard hands. I sure as shit wouldn't want to fight him. Not that I'm a fighter anyhow. Uh, this is how cheesy he was. You want to know his favorite restaurant? Applebee's. Dude, who chooses Applebee's as their favorite restaurant? That's fucked up, man. Okay, that is so suburbia. You're better than that. Thai or something, man. But here's the thing. Danny was, to say he was tight with $1 is like saying the ocean is wet. You know. I always told him, I said, Danny, I don't think you're cheap because you buy quality stuff, but I do think you're thrifty to the point of excess. Yeah. And one of the reasons he loved Applebee's because they always had these coupons, 2 entrees for $14.95 or something. Yeah. It was something of a joke. But he had nice stuff. He wanted his family to be surrounded by nice things. I know he loved all his family. His father worked with us at the county. Nice man. I met his mom once or twice outside the funeral. Nice woman. He was very loyal to them. He grew up in a little country bumpkin town at the time. Now maybe it's bigger now. I'm sure it is. But it was pretty rural, And, from what I saw of his dad, what I knew of him, admittedly he was in a professional environment, but he seemed like a real, no take shit kind of guy, and so I imagine that he raised Danny right, because maybe he was a little bit stern at times, but that was Danny too. It's really hard to overstate how much Danny loved his kids. Like I said, the biggest worry, the biggest regret, and if you're a parent, you're going to have inevitable regrets, because doing the right thing is not easy all the time. But his biggest regret was the times that he had to discipline his children. And I mean, not just his biological children. I mean, he had a stepson, Corey, too, that he loved just as much. He would talk about Corey like, he was there at his birth, like he was the biological father. I know he felt extremely paternal to Corey and considered him his son, just as much as he considered Paris his daughter. And gosh, I can't remember his other son. The name of him. My mind is not good these days, as you can probably tell. But I met him a couple of times. Nice young man. Oh boy, the women love Danny. The women love Danny. And Danny loved women. I don't think he ever loved Crystal 1 ounce less. But he was a man, and men do things that they regret. And I know he regretted the times that he had wronged Crystal. She was his best friend. He loved her. He loved her very much. Like I said, we bonded over dark humor, in part. He was sick in the hospital. Last thing I said to him, texted, was if you see a tunnel of white light, make sure and go to the end of it. Real funny. I'll never forget the sound of Crystal's voice when she called me. I want to say it was around 12:30 at night, but maybe I'm mistaken. I'll never forget the sound of her voice that night. This isn't about me. He was a bit cocky at times, as maybe I've alluded to. I guess other people might call it self-confidence. It certainly wasn't arrogance. He didn't go that far into it. It was just, one thing, he thought he was a better driver than me, truck-wise. And towards the end of his life, he probably was, because I was out of shape, but out of practice. But at the time, no. He was always whipping my ass at dominoes. I think I beat him once. I think I may have gotten lucky, or maybe he let me win. Probably the latter. I really enjoyed dominoes, and he would indulge me, once a month or something, and play me in dominoes. I know he didn't enjoy it, because it's probably like taking candy from a baby. And but he was really good, and I really enjoyed that. He was the type of guy who was liked by everybody. I'm really lucky he chose me as a friend. He could have done better. Yeah, he was charismatic. One of his side hustles for a long time was selling stereo equipment and installing stereos. He was just good at shit like that. He was smart. Like, playing dominoes, he knew what all you had in your hand, 3 rounds in. Because he was counting points, or, whatever the fuck they did. I've never been very good at math or science. I couldn't install a car stereo to save my life. He loved TikTok. He was way ahead of the curve on that. I think he was a very early adopter. of TikTok. And he would send me some of these videos that he had questions on, you know, like about history and stuff. And he'd say, hey, you know, what do you think of this? You know, I think it's a real shame that Danny didn't get a higher education. Yeah. Not just because, you know, he had missed opportunities, stuff like that. I mean, Danny would have made a difference. And he was smart enough that he could have gone all the way. Yeah. The right teaching, he could have had a doctorate. He was that smart and he was that pugnacious. And once he started something, he didn't stop. I don't know why it seems God always takes the good ones and leaves the bad ones standing. But the world is a much lesser place for Danny Roberts Jr.'s passing. And maybe that's the highest compliment you can be given. You know, we all die. And as they say, not all of us truly live. I know Danny did. Yeah. We were going to start a delivery service, you know, for the once that became legal, you know, that was our plan. And we had a name picked out, and I had secured the domain. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. High speed delivery, or something along those lines. It had those 3 words in it, and that was kind of a pun. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was high speed delivery. You know, the high was going to be green, and then the speed, you know, was going to like have like a racing, you know, motion. Delivery, I don't know what we would have done with that. Remember going through my divorce. I stayed over Danny's house a couple of times. And that meant so much to me. Because Danny was really the closest thing to a brother I ever had. Julie, what are you doing? Anyhow, Julie's a dog. She's chasing rabbits, I think. Yeah. See? Just so you know, I don't have, you know, a girl in a cage or something. Danny would find the humor in that. Other people, maybe not so much. He wasn't much of a drinker, but when he did drink, you know, he liked the good stuff. He liked Crown. I need to get some apple Crown. His birthday's coming up in June. Yeah. And he couldn't really, you know, indulge in marijuana because he drove a truck, owner operator. Had his own company, made his own company. Before he died, we were making plans on me joining him. But sorry, what was I saying? Yeah. I miss you, man. I can't really make friends anymore. This ain't about me. Anyhow. I feel like I'm telling you goodbye. I never got that chance. You were not supposed to die before me. Danny, your kids miss you. I'm sure more than even me. I know Crystal still loves you. She's not seeing anybody else even after all these years. Not for a lack of opportunity, but because I stalk her on social media, and when I see that she's talking to a guy, I'll have a fake Facebook account called Danny's Ghost, and I start sending him booze and ghost emojis and shit. Danny would have found that funny. Yeah, that would have cracked Danny the fuck up. And then he probably would have improved on it a little bit. That's what we did. Riff on each other. Yeah. He was a New Orleans Saints fan. Never gave up on him even after I, long did. He was buried in his Saints jersey. Loved Auburn football. Same as me. What can I say? Both he and I, we just love the underdogs. If you are both a Saints and an Auburn's fan, football season is not 100% joy. That 75% looking forward to it, 25%, oh Jesus, how bad is it going to be this year? Because you just never know. It's been a long time since Drew Brees won us a Super Bowl. But honestly, I think I only watched the games, to have something to talk with Danny about. At the end, I'd go over to his house and watch a game with him. I can't summarize someone like Danny that way, in this format, within the constraints of time and what have you. I could tell you everything about him, I could give you every fact. And forgive the cheesiness, but it's like, you know, trying to capture a star in a glass bottle. You know, it just doesn't fit. It's not the right container. The star is too bright. When I die, my life can probably be summed up in 15 minutes. The same cannot be said of Danny. And so, I guess I just need to end this video. Yeah. Goodbye, Danny.